Welcome everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Stephanie Crawford and this is Mrs. Cford Vlogs, episode 4. This is the second in a series called I'll Show You. Today I wanted to show you how easy it is to incorporate dice into a game in your classroom. I have one set of dice here. Okay, these were I think $14 for a set, and I got the pretty colors because why not? Dice can be nice because they can limit word count, so they really make the students have to think closer about what they answer, but also they can allow you to add a time element into it, so you kind of have that double game element. You have the dice and you have time, and you'll be really amazed what they can come up with. So I'm kind of sitting off to the side because I want you to be able to see behind me on my whiteboard there. Yesterday we played a variation of the dice game that I use a lot in class. So we've been reading some articles about Chinese population policies because it goes along with what we had done in The Giver, talking about limiting population, the link to communism, utopias, and all of that. So we were looking at some real-world applications of population policies. So we read one article that was talking about how the population policy had to be instated in the first place in order to make sure that all residents had clean water to drink and all of that. And then the second article was about the negative ramifications of these policies. So now there are not enough children being born once the bigger generation is either retiring or dying out. So they had to look at both sides of that issue. They've been looking at it and annotating, call it close reading, for probably 2 weeks right now. And they had kind of finished it, done some questions that had them focus on the author's claims, cause and effect relationships, all of that. So what I did was I wrote 3 questions on the board. The questions tie into what they answered and the articles they read, but they're not the exact same questions because I want them to have to think about it again more deeply, and this time they'll be able to do it with a group before they've done it individually. So I went to every group and I gave them 4 dice. Okay, each group, regardless of their size, gets the 4 dice. They know that they have to wait. They're not just going around rolling it. And as soon as all 4 groups have their dice, I have them, you can see back there, first, second, and third. Those are for the first, second, and third questions. So each group rolls their 4 dice and they come up with their number by adding up the surface dots on the dice. So they could get 4 or they could get up to 24, anywhere in between. And that number is the number of words they must use in order to answer the question that they've been given. So sometimes the students think they want a little amount of words, but then they realize, I have to answer this question in 5 words. How can I do that? For the rounds, as they go through and they get their numbers for each question, I record them and I put an initial on top to show whose group that is. Now, because I do a gamified classroom, I have spells that they've gotten that can allow them to do some re-rolls or steal a number from someone else. Those are things that can be added in later that you don't need to do this game. Truly, all you need is dice for your students. Then as you start getting more into gamification, you can add those other elements. For instance, I have one that allows them to trade a roll that they have and re-roll, but they have to keep whatever they got. I have a love potion where if they roll a 1 or a 6, they can take the roll from another group and replace it with theirs. I have one that allows them, if they roll a 4, 5, or 6, to curse another group. So that group that they curse has to do double the work. So instead of answering all 3 questions, they have to answer those 3 questions twice. So those can be incorporated too. So as soon as the groups roll their dice the 3 times for these 3 questions, and we've recorded them there, I remind them of the time limit, that they're going to have 5 minutes to try to give specific evidence for all 3 questions. I ask if there are any other clarifications we need, and then we start. They are amazing at what they'll produce. Very specific answers that will point out certain evidence that they've marked through their close reading, the ideas that they discuss together now that they're able to look at how they answered the original questions, but they have to process it quickly. And they are focused because 5 minutes is such a little amount of time to do this in. So if you have never tried incorporating dice into your classroom, this is a great way to start. You don't have to do 3 questions, you can do 1 question. Or you can do 3 questions and each group just rolls the dice once. And if you don't have a full set, just get 4 dice. It takes a little bit more time to go to each group and roll, but you can still do that. It's very quick, very easy. Students normally get very engaged in it because they do have that time limit and they do get to roll. I think you'll see amazing things can be used really in any subject area. You just have to have an essential question. And if you want to make it a little more challenging, you can have them come up with the essential question. One final note on this, I do always have them come together at the end. This last time for this, I collected all the sheets. I made them write it down on hand, one per group. And I collected them all, and then we kind of went over it and talked about it. And then they also offered their input on who really answered that best. Some were amazed. How did they get that? Or they had 20 words. That was so much better than what I had. And I did have a group in class that had an 8, a 5, and a 6, and they still managed to win out of their class period. So I hope that you have found something that you will try, that you will hopefully find that your students are engaged in and they want to come back for more, and that you'll be able to incorporate it over and over again in your classroom. Thanks for tuning in today, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time for Mrs. Cford Vlogs.